Desert night. A woman's silhouette against flames that climb 30 feet into the Syrian sky, black smoke twisting like serpents against stars that have witnessed 1,000 years of blood. The radio crackles with static, then a voice, calm as a surgeon's hand. Wraith 7, confirm kill. Her reply cuts through the heat shimmer, steady as a heartbeat in the moment before death. Confirmed. Target eliminated. All friendlies KIA. The pause stretches, heavy with the weight of what comes next. Including me. The screen goes black. 72 hours earlier. Fort Liberty, North Carolina. The briefing room smells like burned coffee and the particular anxiety that comes before men are sent to places where some of them will not return. 6 in the morning and the fluorescent lights buzz with the frequency of insects dying against a screen door. Lieutenant Carter Vaughn stands at the tactical map, 6'4" of muscle and certainty, finger tracing a route through terrain that looks deceptively simple when reduced to colored lines on laminated paper. He talks through the patrol sequence, voice carrying the confidence of a man who has done this before and expects to do it again. Vehicle assignments, communication protocols, rules of engagement. His team listens with the focused attention of professionals who know that details keep you breathing. 8 Navy SEALs, the best America trains, the tip of a spear that has pierced the heart of every enemy foolish enough to stand in its path. In the corner, almost invisible in her attempt to take up no space at all, sits Sergeant Maya Reeves. 27 years old, 5'2", brown hair pulled back so tight it could be a method of penance. Her uniform is pressed with military precision, but somehow looks wrong on her, like a costume she has not quite grown into. The other operators notice her the way you notice a crack in a load-bearing wall, something that makes you uneasy even if you cannot articulate why. Vaughn reaches the end of his brief, assigns positions with the efficiency of a man distributing ammunition. Doc Sullivan handles medical. Torres takes point vehicle communications. Santos rides second Humvee as senior enlisted. He pauses, looks at Maya for the first time since the brief began, and something cruel flickers in his expression, there and gone like a muzzle flash in darkness. Cooper, you stay in the truck. Door locked. Don't touch anything. The words land with the weight of an insult dressed in orders. She does not flinch, does not protest, just nods once with a compliance that could be mistaken for weakness by anyone who was not watching her hands. Under the table, her fingers grip a pen, pressure building, until the plastic cracks with a sound like a small bone breaking. The sound is lost beneath Corporal Jake Hendricks' laughter. Sir, shouldn't we at least teach her how to use the radio? Hendricks grins, playing to his audience. You know, in case she has a panic attack and needs to call her therapist. The room erupts in the kind of laughter that men use to bond over shared cruelty. Maya's face remains neutral, a mask she has worn so long it has become a second skin. But the broken pen tells a different story, one that nobody is reading. She releases the pieces, lets them fall to the floor with a soft clatter that somehow echoes louder than it should. Vaughn dismisses them with a gesture. They file out, each SEAL passing Maya without acknowledgement, as if she is a piece of furniture they have learned to navigate around. Only Doc Sullivan pauses, something uncertain in his weathered face, but then he too moves on, leaving her alone in the room with the tactical map and the broken pen and the weight of being invisible. She waits until their footsteps fade, then stands and walks to the map. Her finger traces the same route Vaughn outlined, but her eyes are calculating something different. Grid coordinates, elevation changes, natural choke points where ambush becomes not just possible but probable. Her lips move silently, running numbers that have nothing to do with medical supplies. The medical bay becomes her sanctuary in the hours that follow, the one place where she can work without eyes judging every movement. She lays out her tactical medical kit with the precision of a jeweler arranging diamonds. each piece examined and tested and placed exactly where muscle memory will find it when seconds decide between life and death. Hemostatic agents designed to clot arterial bleeding before a man can empty his veins onto foreign soil. Surgical instruments that cost more than most people earn in a month, selected through brutal experience in places where failure means watching brothers die while you hold their hand. Synthetic blood substitutes, ketamine measured in doses that speak of training far beyond standard combat medic certification. Her fingers move with efficiency that comes from countless hours under fire, from decisions made when the difference between right action and hesitation is measured in heartbeats. She picks up a set of arterial clamps, turns them in the light, and for just a moment allows herself to remember. The smell of alcohol prep pad cuts through the present like a knife through canvas. The scent triggers something deeper than conscious thought, pulls her back 3 years to a night in Syria when the moon was new, and the darkness was absolute, and everything she thought she knew about loyalty died screaming. Syria, 3 years ago. The compound walls still warm from the day's heat, holding temperature the way stone holds memory. She kneels beside Wraith 4, Marcus Chen, his blood soaking through combat gauze faster than she can replace it. The wound in his abdomen should be fatal, but he is still conscious, still talking through teeth clenched against agony that would make lesser men beg for morphine strong enough to stop their heart. "If I don't make it," he says, "promise me you'll finish the mission." His hand grips her wrist with surprising strength, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "You'll make it." She works as she talks, hands steady even as her voice fractures at the edges. "You're not dying tonight, Marcus." He laughs, wet and terrible. "That's not a promise, 7, that's hope. Promise me." The radio crackles before she can answer. Wraith 7, target confirmed in compound. Requesting strike authorization. The voice belongs to a pilot she will never meet, flying a bird loaded with enough ordnance to turn stone to powder and men to memory. She looks at Marcus. His eyes hold hers, and in them she sees understanding. Knowledge. The thing they both know but have not yet spoken aloud. He nods just once, and somehow that single gesture carries more weight than any words could hold. Her hand shakes as she reaches for the radio transmit button. The tremor is small, but it is there, the only outward sign of what this costs. When she speaks, her voice is steady enough to fool anyone who cannot see her face. "Authorized, danger close. We're still inside." The transmission ends. Marcus squeezes her wrist one final time, then releases her. She has maybe 90 seconds before the world becomes fire and thunder, and the terrible mathematics of sacrificing 3 to save 7. She wants to say something, anything, words that might carry meaning equal to this moment. He beats her to it. "Tell my sister I loved her. Tell her it mattered." Then the night turns white. Maya gasps back to the present, finds herself gripping the edge of the medical bay sink hard enough that her knuckles have gone bloodless. The alcohol pad lies on the floor, its scent still triggering responses her body has memorized in the language of trauma. She runs cold water, splashes her face, watches the droplets fall and merge with older stains that never quite wash clean. From her pocket she pulls a pill bottle, label reading anxiety medication in the sanitized typeface of military pharmacies. She opens it, pours the contents into her palm. White tablets, perfectly round, identical to the prescription benzos that half the combat vets she knows take just to sleep through the night without screaming. She dumps them into the sink, watches them swirl and disappear down the drain. They dissolve quickly because they are nothing but compressed sugar, props in a performance she has been giving for 3 years. The Army thinks she needs chemical assistance to function. They are wrong about that. They are wrong about a great many things. The knock on the door comes soft, almost apologetic. She closes the pill bottle, drops it back in her pocket, and wipes her face before turning. Specialist Jordan Hayes stands in the doorway, young and uncertain, holding a tablet like a shield against the awkwardness of this moment. Sergeant Cooper. Jordan's voice carries the careful neutrality of someone navigating a minefield. I'm Specialist Hayes, Intelligence. Colonel wants me to brief you on terrain for tomorrow's patrol. I can read a map. Maya keeps her tone flat, professional, the voice of someone who has learned that warmth invites connection and connection invites pain. Jordan steps inside anyway, closes the door with a gentleness that seems out of place in a world of slammed doors and shouted orders. She looks at Maya for a long moment and something shifts in her expression. Fear gives way to something harder. Resolution, maybe, or desperation dressed as courage. I know who you really are. The words come out in a whisper that barely disturbs the air but lands with the impact of artillery. Maya's hand moves without conscious thought, finds the combat knife at her belt, fingers wrapping around the handle with the ease of long practice. She does not draw it, but the threat is implicit, a promise written in the tension of muscle and the mathematics of distance. Jordan does not step back. She should, any rational person would, but instead she holds her ground with the kind of bravery that comes from having already lost everything that matters. My brother was Wraith 3. Her voice shakes now, control slipping. James Hayes, he wrote about you before Syria, before everything. The name hits Maya like a fist to the solar plexus. James Hayes, Wraith 3. The team's forward reconnaissance specialist, the man who could move through hostile territory like smoke through a screen door, invisible until he chose otherwise. She had thought him dead, had carried that weight for 3 years alongside all the others. Her hand releases the knife, falls back to her side. What did he write? Jordan swallows hard, gathering courage. He said if anything happened, if things went wrong, I should find Wraith 7. He said you were the only one who would understand, the only one who might still care enough to finish what he started. Your brother was a good soldier. Maya forces the words out through a throat that has suddenly gone tight. He deserved better than what happened. Jordan reaches into her pocket, pulls out a folded piece of paper, offers it like a treaty between warring nations. Building 7, midnight, come alone. She pauses, meets Maya's eyes. Please, he's still alive, and he needs you. She leaves before Maya can respond. Footsteps fading down the corridor with the finality of doors closing on rooms you will never enter again. Maya unfolds the paper, reads the message written in handwriting she does not recognize, coordinates that point to a place she should not know exists. She refolds it, slips it into her pocket next to the bottle of fake anxiety medication, and goes back to preparing her medical kit. Her hands do not shake. They never shake when there is work to be done. The shooting range sprawls across 300 yards of North Carolina red clay, backstops rising like earthen walls against the possibility of rounds traveling beyond where they are invited. The afternoon sun turns everything harsh and bright, shadows knife-edge sharp, heat rising in waves that make distant targets shimmer like mirages. The SEAL team is already present when Maya arrives, their shots grouping tight at 400 meters, each round punching through paper with the authority of men who have learned their craft in places where missing means dying. Vaughn empties a magazine into center mass, reloads with practiced efficiency, does it again. Beside him, Hendricks works a rhythm that speaks of thousands of hours downrange, muscle memory written so deep it has become instinct. They see her approach, and something passes between them. A glance, a nod, the silent communication of men who have decided that today they will push this broken woman until she either hardens or shatters. Either outcome is acceptable. Either outcome confirms what they already believe. Cooper, Vaughn's voice cuts across the range. Since you're here, show us what they taught you in therapy. How to breathe through your panic attacks while the rest of us do the actual fighting. The laughter comes easy, mean-spirited, the kind that bonds men together in their shared superiority. Maya walks to the firing line, picks up the M4 that has been left for her, begins her inspection with the methodical care of someone who trusts nothing she has not personally verified. She checks the chamber, the magazine, the selector switch. Her fingers find the safety and stop. Something is wrong. The mechanism moves, but the angle is off, just fractionally, the kind of sabotage that would not be obvious to anyone who had not handled several thousand weapons and learned to feel the difference between right and wrong in their bones. Maya's internal monologue runs cold and analytical, the voice she uses when assessing threats in combat. They want me to fail, expect me to fail. This rifle is deliberately compromised to ensure that outcome. The safety is canted 0.3 degrees off axis. The barrel has microfractures I can feel through the harmonic vibration when I tap the hand guard. The scope mount has been loosened exactly enough to shift 0 by 6 inches at this range. Professional work. Hendricks knows his weapons. She could call it out now, could make a scene, demand a different rifle, force them to acknowledge the sabotage. But that would be playing their game, accepting the premise that she needs to prove herself worthy of basic professional courtesy. Instead, she makes a different choice. Safety's on wrong position. She says it loud enough to carry. Someone tampered with this. Her eyes find Hendricks, hold his gaze with the steady pressure of accusation that does not need to be spoken aloud to be understood. Hendricks shrugs, all innocence and casual disregard. Must have been the last guy. These rifles get passed around, you know how it is. Maya does not argue. She adjusts the rifle, makes it functional within the limits of what has been done to it, and takes her position at the line. Doc Sullivan stands nearby, watching with the attention of someone who is beginning to suspect that the story he has been told does not match the evidence his eyes are collecting. She fires 5 rounds. All of them miss the target by margins that would be embarrassing for a basic trainee, let alone someone assigned to a SEAL combat patrol. The rounds go wide right, high, a grouping that suggests either incompetence or a rifle that has been deliberately compromised to ensure exactly this outcome. The SEALs erupt in laughter that echoes off the earthen backstops. Vaughn shakes his head with theatrical disappointment. This is who they sent to save our lives. Fucking outstanding. Someone remind me to write a thank you note to whoever made this staffing decision. Maya sets the rifle down with the same care she used to pick it up, turns to face them with an expression that gives away nothing. Inside, she catalogs every detail. Hendricks is trying too hard not to smile. Vaughn's disappointment reads as genuine, which means he was not in on the sabotage, which means this was Hendricks acting alone or with 1 or 2 others. Sullivan's expression holds uncertainty rather than contempt, which makes him potential ally if circumstances require it. The younger SEALs are following Vaughn's lead, pack animals reinforcing hierarchy through shared cruelty. She speaks with clinical precision. Rifle's barrel is bent 0.3 degrees. Scope mount is loose. Trigger pull is 8 pounds instead of standard 4.5. She looks directly at Hendricks. Impressive sabotage, Corporal. You know your weapons. I respect the craftsmanship. The laughter dies like a candle in a hurricane. Sullivan steps forward, takes the rifle, runs his own inspection with the expertise of 2 decades in special operations. His face darkens as he confirms what Maya reported. She's right. This rifle's been deliberately fucked with. He looks at Vaughn. Sir, this needs to be addressed. Vaughn's jaw tightens, muscle flexing beneath skin, but he does not apologize. Does not acknowledge, just waves a hand in dismissal. Dismissed, all of you. Brief at 0500 tomorrow, don't be late. They file away, but the dynamic has shifted in ways too subtle to name. Maya has demonstrated expertise without firing a shot, has shown knowledge that does not match her file, her supposed history, the story they have been told about the broken medic with PTSD who needs to be babysat through a simple patrol. Maya walks back to the armory alone, carrying the sabotaged rifle, her mind already 3 moves ahead. They tested her. She responded not with emotion but with technical competence, turning their sabotage into an opportunity to demonstrate knowledge they did not expect her to possess. Tomorrow in the valley they will test her again, and tomorrow she will stop holding back. That evening in his quarters, Vaughn sits with Maya's personnel file spread across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. He reads it for the 3rd time, looking for details he missed in previous reviews, trying to reconcile what the paperwork says with what his instincts are screaming. Survivor, Sergeant Maya Reeves. Sole survivor of Strike Team Viper killed in action via friendly fire Operation Sandstorm, Syria. Psychological evaluation, PTSD, acute anxiety disorder, recommended for non-combat administrative duty. Awards: Bronze Star with V device, classification level classified, Purple Heart. He stops on the Bronze Star line, reads it again. A Valor decoration for a medic who survived friendly fire while her team died. The math does not work. Valor implies action under enemy contact, implies risk taken and mission accomplished. You do not get a Bronze Star for hiding in a basement while ordnance falls and your brothers burn. He opens his laptop, accesses the secure military database with credentials that grant him access to information 3 levels above what most officers will ever see. He searches Operation Sandstorm, gets back a wall of red text. Classified. Access denied. Authorized personnel only. He tries another angle, searches for Strike Team Viper. The results load slowly, text appearing line by line like a message from the dead. Mission log, Syria 3 years ago. Strike authorization, Wraith 7. Confirmed kills, 14 hostile, 6 friendly. Mission status, success. Vaughn stares at the screen, his mind working through implications that rewrite everything he thought he knew. Wraith 7 authorized the strike. Wraith 7 called in fire on her own position. 6 friendly killed. 14 hostile. Mission success. He searches deeper, accessing classified databases that most lieutenant commanders never see, using connections built over a decade in special operations. He finds references to Wraith program buried in JSOC documentation. Ghost operators, deniable assets, the kind of people who do things that would end careers if they ever became public knowledge. Most of the files are redacted beyond usefulness, but one paragraph remains intact, probably through oversight rather than intention. Wraith program operators undergo selection process with 97% attrition rate. Training includes advanced combat medicine, long-range precision shooting, close-quarters battle, tactical planning, and psychological conditioning for operating in isolation behind enemy lines. Operators are expected to function independently for extended periods without support or oversight, making decisions that would typically require command-level authorization. Vaughn closes the laptop, sits in darkness broken only by the glow of his desk lamp. He thinks about the woman he has been tormenting, the medic he assigned to stay locked in a truck while real operators do real work. He thinks about her identifying rifle sabotage with expertise that suggests thousands of hours of weapons handling. He thinks about her analyzing the patrol route and identifying the exact grid where any competent enemy would establish an ambush. He thinks about the mission tomorrow, and for the first time since receiving the tasking, he feels something that might be doubt. Not about his team's capabilities, but about whether he has correctly assessed the tactical situation. If Maya is what the classified files suggest, then her concerns about the route are not paranoia or inexperience. They are professional threat assessment from an operator whose training exceeds his own. He makes a decision, opens his secure phone, sends an encrypted message to the Tactical Operations Center. Request ISR coverage for tomorrow's patrol route. Grid 427 Echo specifically, and have a quick reaction force on standby. If things go wrong, I want help available in 5 minutes or less. The acknowledgement comes back within 30 seconds. Request approved. Someone else is taking this seriously, even if they cannot explain why to anyone who lacks the proper clearances. Vaughn strips off his uniform, lies in bed, stares at the ceiling. Tomorrow will answer questions he did not know he had until today. Tomorrow he will discover whether the broken medic is actually broken, or whether she has been hiding in plain sight, pretending to be weak while possessing capabilities that would make her the most dangerous person on the patrol. He tries to sleep, fails. His mind keeps returning to the classified file, to the 6 friendly KIA, to the terrible math of calling in fire on your own position, because stopping one traitor matters more than saving 3 teammates. That kind of decision requires either ruthlessness or clarity of purpose that transcends normal moral calculation. Either way, it is not the decision profile of someone who suffers from PTSD and panic attacks. It is the decision profile of someone who has been trained to value mission success above all other considerations, including their own survival. Vaughn finally sleeps around 300, and his dreams are filled with fire and the screams of men dying because he made the wrong tactical call. When he wakes at 4:30, covered in sweat, the first thought in his mind is not about the mission. It is about Maya Reeves, and whether she has been screaming in her sleep for 3 years or whether the anxiety medication and psychological evaluation are as fake as her apparent incompetence. The pre-mission brief at 0500 is tense in ways that have nothing to do with the upcoming patrol. The SEALs file in carrying the weight of rumors that spread through the base like wildfire after Maya's performance at the shooting range. They look at her differently now, uncertainty replacing the easy contempt they wore before. Uncertainty is dangerous. It makes men hesitate. It makes them question, but it also makes them pay attention. Vaughn runs through the brief with mechanical precision, but his eyes keep finding Maya, trying to reconcile what he knows with what he is beginning to suspect. When he reaches vehicle assignments, he pauses, makes a decision that surprises everyone including himself. Cooper, you ride with Hendricks in trail vehicle, but you're not staying in the truck. You pull security with the team. He meets her eyes. You said this route has ambush potential. If you're right, I want eyes that are actually looking for threats instead of playing with medical supplies. The room reacts, murmurs of surprise and something that might be approval from Santos. Maya nods once, says nothing, but something passes between her and Vaughn. An acknowledgement, a shift, the beginning of respect earned not through words but through competence demonstrated in the face of active hostility. When Vaughn asks for questions, Maya raises her hand. Grid 427 Echo. She points to the map. Natural choke point. High ground both sides. Perfect ambush terrain. If we take contact, that's where it will happen. We should have air assets on standby, medical evacuation prepositioned, and rules of engagement cleared for danger close support. The room goes silent. Those are not the suggestions of a medic. Those are the tactical considerations of someone who has planned and executed operations in hostile territory, someone who thinks 3 moves ahead and prepares for the worst because experience has taught her that the worst is always possible. Vaughn stares at her for a long moment. When we get hit, you said when, not if. Maya holds his gaze. When, sir, not if. That terrain is too perfect. Someone will use it. The only question is whether we're ready when they do. Santos speaks up, his voice carrying the authority of 2 decades in combat. "LT, she's not wrong. We should request ISR coverage and have a quick reaction force on standby." Vaughn nods slowly, making calculations that have nothing to do with tactics and everything to do with trust. "Already done. ISR is active. QRF is spinning up." He looks at Maya. "Cooper, if you're wrong about this, I'm going to have some very pointed questions about how a medic with PTSD knows more about ambush tactics than my team leaders." "If I'm wrong, you can ask me anything you want." Maya's voice is steady. "But I'm not wrong, sir. And by the end of today, you're going to understand exactly why." The convoy forms up as dawn breaks over North Carolina. 4 Humvees loaded with men and weapons, and the particular tension that comes before violence. Maya climbs into the trail vehicle, takes her position at the rear right seat, rifle held with the casual competence of someone for whom weapons are tools rather than talismans. Hendricks sits across from her, his earlier swagger replaced by something more cautious. PFC Marcus Lane occupies the front passenger seat, 19 years old and so new his uniform still has factory creases. He grips his rifle too tight, breathing too fast, fear written in every line of his body. Maya leans forward, her voice pitched for his ears only. "First deployment." "Yes, Sergeant." Lane does not look at her, eyes locked forward. "You're going to be fine, just remember your training. When things get loud, focus on the fundamentals. Breathe, aim, fire, move." She pauses. "You do those 4 things, you go home. You freeze, you die. It's that simple." "Did you really call an airstrike on your own team?" The question bursts out of Lane like pressure released, something he has been holding back and can no longer contain. The Humvee goes quiet. Even the driver, Corporal Tim Booker, shifts his attention, though his eyes never leave the road. Maya considers lying, considers deflection, considers the dozen ways she could avoid answering. But these men are about to go into combat beside her. They deserve truth, even if that truth is ugly. "Yes," her voice is flat. "One of my teammates was a traitor. He was going to transmit intelligence that would have gotten dozens of Americans killed. I had to choose between sacrificing 3 people to save many or letting everyone die to save 3. I chose the mission." Hendricks stares at her. "That's fucked up." "War is fucked up, Corporal. You'll learn that today." Maya settles back into her seat, checks her rifle one final time. The scar feels right in her hands, balanced, ready. Not like the sabotaged M4 from the range. This one she prepared herself, test fired, verified. This one will not fail her when failure means death. The convoy enters Sector 7, terrain transitioning from rolling hills to the narrow valley they have designated Reaper's Gap. Appropriate name, Maya thinks. The valley walls rise on both sides, covered in scrub, brush, and rocks that could hide an army. The road narrows, forcing vehicles into single file, eliminating maneuver space. She scans the ridgelines with binoculars, systematic search pattern looking for the tells that separate rock from man. Movement, unnatural shadows, the glint of glass or metal catching sunlight. At 600 meters, 2 o'clock high, she sees it. Just a flash there and gone, but enough. She keys her radio. Red 1, possible sniper position, 600 meters, 2 o'clock high. Vaughn's response is immediate and dismissive. Red 4, I don't see anything. Maintain radio discipline. 10 seconds pass. Maya counts them, watching the ridgeline, knowing what is coming with the certainty of experience bought in blood. At 10 seconds, the windshield of Vaughn's Humvee spiderwebs, struck by a round that fails to penetrate but announces the beginning of everything. Vaughn's voice over the radio, professional despite circumstances. "Sniper. All vehicles, evasive action, prepare for contact." The IED detonates under Vehicle 2 with a sound like God slamming a door. The Humvee lifts, turns sideways in the air with the terrible grace of physics overwhelming engineering, comes down on its side in a bloom of flame and black smoke. Santos's vehicle. 4 men inside, maybe alive, maybe dying, definitely in immediate need of help. Gunfire erupts from both ridgelines, the distinctive crack of AK-47s mixing with the deeper thump of heavy machine guns. RPGs streak across the valley, smoke trails writing threats in the air. This is not harassment fire. This is a deliberate, well-planned ambush with interlocking fields of fire, with enough shooters to make retreat as dangerous as advance. Booker screams at Maya and Hendricks, "Stay down, stay in the vehicle." Maya unbuckles her harness, kicks the door open. Hendricks grabs at her, tries to pull her back, and for just a moment their eyes meet. He sees it then, the thing she has been hiding, the coldness, the calculation, the absolute certainty of someone who has done this before and will do it again because it is what she was built for. No, she pulls free, I won't. She drops from the Humvee into hell. Rounds snap past close enough to feel the pressure wave, close enough to smell the copper tang of air split by supersonic metal. She sprints toward Santos's burning vehicle, medic bag in one hand, rifle in the other, moving with an efficiency that speaks of training far beyond what any combat medic receives. In her earpiece, buried beneath the tactical frequency, another channel activates. One she has not heard in 3 years, one that should not exist. The voice is familiar in the worst possible way. Wraith 7, welcome back. Let's see if you still remember how to dance. The voice belongs to Wraith 2, and somewhere on these ridgelines he is watching, waiting, running a test she did not know she was taking until this moment. The ambush is real. The danger is real. But the purpose is something else entirely. She reaches the burning Humvee as the flames reach the fuel tank, heat pressing against her face like a physical force. Inside, she can see movement. Someone is alive. That means she has seconds to pull them out before the vehicle becomes a crematorium. She does not hesitate, does not calculate odds, just moves because this is what Wraith 7 does. This is what she has always done. Save the ones who can be saved. Finish the mission, pay the cost. Her hands find the door handle, hot enough to sear flesh, and she pulls with strength born of desperation and muscle memory, and the absolute refusal to let another brother burn while she watches. The world is fire and lead, and the voice of ghosts calling her home. The door of the burning Humvee tears free in Maya's hands, metal screaming against metal, heat blistering her palms through tactical gloves that were never designed for this kind of sustained contact, with surfaces hot enough to glow. Inside the overturned vehicle, Master Chief Dominic Santos hangs upside down from his harness, blood running from a gash across his temple, consciousness flickering like a candle in wind. Behind him, wedged against the transmission tunnel, Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Lane thrashes with the particular panic of a man who can smell his own death approaching on waves of gasoline fumes and superheated air. Maya does not think. Thinking is the enemy of action, the space where hesitation lives and good men die while you calculate odds. She climbs into the inferno, one hand finding Santos's harness release, the other steadying his weight as physics tries to dump him head first into the flames that are spreading from the engine compartment with the inevitability of cancer. The harness clicks open. Santos drops into her arms, deadweight that her 5'2" frame should not be able to support, but somehow does because failure is not an option written into her operating system. She drags him backwards through the door, his boots catching on twisted metal, her shoulders screaming protest as muscles designed for precision work are asked to perform feats of strength that violate every principle of biomechanics. Gunfire intensifies. Rounds spark off the Humvee's armor plating, some penetrating, most deflecting, all of them writing the message that staying here means dying here. She gets Santos clear, lays him on the ground behind the vehicle's bulk, checks his pulse. Strong, steady. He will live if she can keep him that way. She turns back toward the flames. Lane is still inside, still screaming, and the fire has found the fuel line. She has maybe 10 seconds before the vehicle transforms from burning wreck to fragmentation grenade. Shrapnel radius 30 meters, everyone in the kill zone including her. Someone grabs her arm. Doc Sullivan, his face blackened with smoke, eyes wild with the kind of fear that comes from watching physics write death sentences in real time. Don't. She's gonna blow. Maya pulls free, climbs back into the flames without answering because words are wasted oxygen, and oxygen is becoming a limited resource as fire consumes everything combustible. She finds Lane pinned beneath a section of roof that collapsed inward when the vehicle rolled, metal pressing against his chest hard enough to crack ribs but not hard enough to kill quickly. Her hands find the metal edge, pull with strength that should not exist, fueled by adrenaline and muscle memory and 3 years of rage at having to pretend to be less than what she is. The metal moves. Not much. Enough. Lane gasps, chest expanding, and she grabs his harness and pulls. They clear the door 5 seconds before the fuel tank ruptures. The explosion lifts her off her feet, throws her forward, sound and pressure and heat combining into a physical force that slams her into the ground hard enough to crack the breath from her lungs and fill her mouth with the taste of blood and Afghan dust that tastes exactly like Syrian dust, that tastes exactly like Iraqi dust. Because in the end, all battlefields share the same fundamental flavor of copper and fear. She covers Lane's body with her own as shrapnel whistles overhead, white-hot metal fragments seeking flesh with the random malice of chaos given physical form. Something hits her shoulder, tears through the fabric of her uniform, draws a line of fire across skin that will scar later if there is a later. She does not cry out, does not move until the last piece of debris stops falling, and the world settles back into the merely catastrophic instead of the actively apocalyptic. Sullivan is there, pulling her up, checking her for wounds with the practiced efficiency of a man who has done this too many times in too many places. You're hit. Scratch, her voice comes out rougher than intended, vocal cords stressed by smoke inhalation. Santos and Lane. Alive, thanks to you. Sullivan's expression holds something between awe and suspicion, the look of a man whose worldview is being forcibly rewritten in real time. Nobody moves like that. Nobody lifts that kind of weight. Who the hell are you really? Maya ignores the question, turns her attention to the tactical situation unfolding around them with the terrible precision of a plan executed by people who know exactly what they are doing. The ambush is textbook. High ground both sides, interlocking fields of fire, RPGs used to disable vehicles while small arms pin down dismounts. Whoever planned this studied American convoy doctrine and designed countermeasures that exploit every weakness. The voice returns in her earpiece, that encrypted frequency that should not exist, Wraith 2 speaking from somewhere in the mountains with the casual confidence of a man who holds all the cards and knows it. Impressive. You've still got the reflexes, but saving 2 was the easy part. Let's see how you handle the hard math. The sniper shot comes from 600 meters, 2 o'clock high, exactly where Maya spotted the glint before this all began. The round takes Corporal Jake Hendricks in the shoulder, spins him like a puppet with cut strings, drops him behind the lead vehicle where Vaughn and the forward element have established a defensive perimeter. The scream that follows is high and thin, the sound of a man discovering that training and reality occupy different universes. Vaughn's voice on the tactical net, strained but controlled. Sniper, someone kill that bastard. Maya's mind calculates without conscious thought. 600 meters. Uphill. Wind right to left at approximately 8 miles per hour based on the movement of smoke from the burning vehicle. Target in defilade, only visible for maybe 2 seconds per shot. The math requires skill that regular infantry does not possess, equipment that regular infantry does not carry, and willingness to expose yourself to return fire that regular infantry should not have. She moves to the rear of her Humvee, opens the weapons case that standard loadout does not include, pulls out the M110 semi-automatic sniper system that she requisitioned through channels that do not appear on official paperwork. The rifle feels like coming home, familiar weight and balance, the tool she has used to solve problems that exist at distances where conventional engagement becomes geometry, and wind becomes the enemy you cannot see but must respect. Sullivan watches her assemble the weapon with movements that speak of thousands of repetitions, muscle memory so deep it has become instinct. "Where did you get that?" His voice carries undertones of understanding that he probably wishes he did not have. "Does it matter?" She settles into a firing position behind the minimal cover of a tire, scopes the ridgeline, finds the sniper's hide with the ease of someone who has occupied similar positions in similar terrain. The enemy is good, professional, using shoot-and move tactics that make targeting difficult. But good is not the same as invisible, and professional is not the same as perfect. She watches, waits, breathing slows, heart rate drops. The world narrows to the reticle and the target zone and the space between intention and execution. The sniper appears, muzzle emerging from shadow, 1 second of exposure before he will disappear again, and Hendricks will continue bleeding and the tactical situation will continue deteriorating. Maya fires. The rifle bucks against her shoulder, recoil managed, follow-through automatic. 600 meters uphill the sniper jerks, weapon falling from hands that no longer receive signals from a brain that has just been turned off like a light switch. He slumps over his rifle, visible now in death where he was hidden in life. The tactical net goes silent. Then Vaughn's voice, quiet with the kind of shock that comes from having assumptions destroyed. "Cooper, what the hell was that?" Snipers down. Maya works the bolt, chambering another round, scanning for additional threats. "You're welcome, sir." She hears Vaughn breathing over the net, processing, recalculating. He does not ask where she learned to shoot like that. Does not question why a PTSD-afflicted medic carries a sniper rifle and just made a shot that would challenge trained marksmen. Some questions answer themselves if you are paying attention, and Vaughn is definitely paying attention now. The Taliban fighters adjust their tactics, pressing closer, trying to overrun the convoy before reinforcements can arrive. They move in small teams, using terrain with the competence of men who have been fighting in these mountains since before some of the Americans were born. This is their ground. They know every rock, every fold in the terrain, every approach that provides cover and concealment. Maya switches back to her rifle, engages targets at ranges where iron sights become more reliable than optics, where speed matters more than precision. Her movements flow with an economy that speaks of training far beyond what any regular combat medic receives. She does not spray and pray. Each round is deliberate, aimed, fired with the certainty of someone who has learned that ammunition is finite and targets are plentiful, and the difference between winning and losing often comes down to making every shot count. Beside her, Sullivan fights with the same professional competence, but his eyes keep returning to Maya, watching her work, seeing things that do not match the file, the story, the official narrative. When she executes a tactical reload without looking at her weapon, when she acquires and engages a target that appears for less than a second before disappearing behind cover, when she calls out enemy positions using terminology that comes from joint fires training that medics do not receive, he knows. She's Wraith. He says it to himself, too quiet for her to hear over the gunfire. Holy Christ, she's actually Wraith. The radio traffic from the other vehicles paints a picture of a deteriorating tactical situation. Vehicle 1, Vaughn's Humvee, has taken multiple RPG hits and is combat ineffective, mobility killed, armor compromised. Vehicle 3 reports casualties, both urgent surgical and priority evacuation. Vehicle 4, Maya's position, is the only fully functional platform remaining, which means it has just become the center of gravity for any successful defense. Maya keys her radio, speaks with the calm authority of someone who has done this before in places where failure meant more than just her own death. Red 1, this is Red 4. Consolidate your position around Vehicle 1. Establish a perimeter, suppress fire from Ridge Line Alpha. I'm moving to Vehicle 3 to treat casualties. Then we collapse everyone back to Vehicle 4 and establish a strongpoint. There is a pause, then Vaughn's voice, and something has changed in it. The contempt is gone, replaced by the focused attention of a professional warrior recognizing competence that exceeds his own. Red 4, negative, too dangerous. Stay in position. Sir, if we don't consolidate, they'll defeat us in detail. We're spread across 200 meters with no mutual support. They pick us off one position at a time until we're all dead or captured. Her voice hardens. We move now or we die here. Your call. Another pause. Maya can almost hear Vaughn's world reshaping itself around new information, old certainties crumbling under the weight of evidence that cannot be denied or ignored. Red 4, execute your plan. All elements, Cooper has tactical control. Acknowledge. The acknowledgements come in, each SEAL subordinating himself to the authority of a woman they were tormenting 6 hours ago, because competence transcends prejudice when the alternative is dying badly in a valley whose name most Americans cannot pronounce. Maya does not pause to savor the moment, does not waste time on vindication or satisfaction. There will be time for that later if there is a later. She moves like smoke through a screen door, low and fast, using every scrap of cover, timing her movement to coincide with lulls in enemy fire. The distance to Vehicle 3 is 70 meters that might as well be 700 when measured in exposure to disciplined fire from elevated positions. She covers it in bursts, 3 to 5 second rushes, hitting the ground hard, rising, moving again before the enemy can adjust aim. Rounds impact around her, kicking up geysers of dust, sparking off rocks, writing the message that someone on that ridgeline has her specifically targeted and is working very hard to make her stop existing. She does not slow down. Slowing down means dying, and dying means the men she is moving to save will die too, and that outcome is not acceptable within the parameters of who Maya Reeves actually is beneath the performance she has been giving. She reaches Vehicle 3, slides behind its bulk, finds 2 SEALs down and bleeding. Petty Officer First Class David Morrison has taken shrapnel to the abdomen, the kind of wound that will kill him in 20 minutes without intervention that should only happen in an operating room with surgeons and anesthesia and equipment that does not exist in this valley. Petty Officer Second Class Kevin Torres has a through-and-through gunshot wound to the thigh, arterial bleeding, bright red blood pumping in time with his heartbeat, maybe 5 minutes before he bleeds out completely. Maya's hands move without conscious thought, muscle memory taking over, training that goes so deep it has become instinct written into neural pathways that do not require higher brain function to access. Tourniquet on Torres first, the immediate life threat, twisting the windlass until the bleeding stops, until his face goes white with pain, but at least he still has a face, and that face is attached to a body that remains alive. Morrison next. She cuts away his gear, his uniform, exposes the wound that is every combat medic's nightmare, intestines visible through torn muscle and skin, internal bleeding that she cannot stop with external pressure. This requires surgery, field surgery, the kind that should not be possible under fire with basic equipment and no backup. She pulls supplies from her bag that standard issue does not include. Hemostatic agents that cost more per dose than most people earn in a week. Surgical instruments that she sterilized herself because trusting supply chain is how people die from infections that antibiotics should prevent. Ketamine in doses calibrated for field anesthesia, the narrow margin between unconscious and dead, the calculation she has made dozens of times in dozens of places. Morrison's eyes find hers, pain and fear, and the terrible understanding that his life currently exists in the space between her competence and the enemy's desire to kill them all. Am I going to die? Not today. She injects the ketamine, watches his eyes lose focus as the drug takes hold. Not on my watch. Her hands work with speed that appears reckless, but is actually the product of brutal experience, opening him up further to access the bleeders, clamping vessels that are pumping his life out onto Afghan soil, packing the wound with gauze impregnated with compounds that force clotting through chemical intervention. This is battlefield surgery stripped to its essential truth, keeping blood inside bodies long enough to get those bodies to people with better training and better equipment. Sullivan appears beside her, adding his hands to hers, working in practice synchronization, two combat medics who have been in enough bad situations to know that ego is a luxury you cannot afford when measured against the weight of human life. He does not ask how she knows these procedures, does not question her authority or competence. Just works, because that is what professionals do when the alternative is watching brothers die. Vehicle 3 is combat ineffective. Sullivan's voice is clinical, detached, the tone you use when discussing mechanical failures rather than human mortality. We need to move these casualties back to your position. Agreed. Maya finishes packing Morrison's wound, covers it with a field dressing that will have to suffice until they can get him to a forward surgical team. On my mark, we move. I'll pull Morrison, you get Tors, covering fire from vehicles 1 and 4. She keys the radio, lays out the movement plan with the precision of someone who has done this before, who has coordinated combat movements under fire in places where the official record says American forces were never present. The acknowledgments come back, and she can hear new respect in voices that hours earlier were dismissing her as dead weight. They move. Maya and Sullivan pulling wounded men across open ground while the remaining SEALs pour suppressing fire into the ridgelines, bullets creating a sonic barrier that makes the enemy choose between returning fire and keeping their heads attached to their bodies. The Taliban choose survival, hunker down, wait for the Americans to stop shooting, and in that window Maya and Sullivan complete their movement, get the wounded to Vehicle 4, establish a defensive perimeter that turns one functional Humvee into a strongpoint. The tactical situation stabilizes. Not good, but no longer actively deteriorating. Vaughn manages to get his element collapsed back to the strongpoint, bringing Hendricks, who is still conscious despite blood loss, bringing the bodies of 2 SEALs who were not as lucky, who took rounds in places where even immediate medical intervention cannot reverse the physics of high-velocity metal meeting human tissue. They form a defensive circle, 8 living SEALs and Maya, surrounded by terrain that offers concealment to the enemy and exposure to the defenders, pinned down but no longer in immediate danger of being overrun. The Taliban pull back to the ridgelines, content to wait, knowing that time favors the force with supplies and reinforcements nearby while the Americans have neither. Vaughn finds Maya as she works on Morrison, hands red with blood that is not her own, face streaked with smoke and dust, and the particular exhaustion that comes from sustained adrenaline followed by the crash. He crouches beside her, and when he speaks his voice carries none of the earlier contempt, only the flat assessment of a professional warrior acknowledging excellence he did not expect to find. That was the most impressive tactical movement under fire I've seen outside of DEVGRU. His eyes bore into hers. "You're not a regular medic. You're not even a regular special operations medic. You're something else entirely." Maya does not look up from her work, fingers checking Morrison's vitals, adjusting IV drip rates, making the thousand small calibrations that keep wounded men this side of the line that separates living from dead. "Does it matter what I am, sir? Or does it only matter that I'm keeping your men alive?" "Both." Vaughn settles into a sitting position back against the Humvee, rifle across his lap. "I read your file, the real one, the classified one. Operation Sandstorm. Wraith 7. You called in a strike on your own position because one of your team was a traitor. 6 KIA to stop one man from selling American operations to ISIS." Maya's hands still for just a moment, then resume their work. "You shouldn't have access to that file." "I have access to a lot of things I shouldn't." Vaughn's voice drops lower, including the part where Wraith 7 was officially declared KIA 3 years ago. Training accident. Closed casket funeral. So either you're the best impersonator I've ever seen, or someone in JSOC decided that killing you on paper was more useful than keeping you alive officially. She finally looks at him, and for the first time since this patrol began, she lets him see past the mask, see the thing underneath, the operator who has been hiding in plain sight. "My unit was betrayed, sold out. 8 of us died that night, not from the airstrike but in the firefight that followed when ISIS forces hit us 30 seconds after I called in the strike." She pauses. 16 survived by scattering to the wind. New identities, new lives. Orders to never contact each other, never acknowledge the program existed, never be Wraith again. "So what are you doing here? If you were supposed to disappear, why take an assignment that puts you right back in combat?" "Because the traitor survived." Maya returns to her work, voice flat. "Wraith 2. He walked away from that night and he's been operating in this region for 2 years. Intelligence assessment says he's now a Taliban tactical advisor, using everything he learned in JSOC to kill Americans." She meets Vaughn's eyes again. "He has one of my brothers, Wraith 3, and he sent a message saying come find me. So here I am." Understanding blooms in Vaughn's expression, pieces connecting into a picture he does not like but cannot deny. This whole patrol, the route, the ambush, it was all designed to get you here. "Yes, and to test whether I can still function as Wraith 7 after 3 years playing broken." She gestures at the defensive perimeter, the wounded men who are alive because of her actions. "What do you think, Lieutenant? Did I pass?" Vaughn almost smiles, but the moment is interrupted by incoming fire. A renewed push by Taliban forces who have apparently decided that waiting is less appealing than finishing the job. RPGs streak across the valley, airburst rounds designed to kill anyone not in hard cover, and the SEALs respond with disciplined fire, making every round count because ammunition is becoming a concern that will soon transition from worry to crisis. Maya keys her radio, switches to the encrypted frequency that only Wraith operators know exists, the one that Wraith 2 has somehow accessed. She takes a breath, commits to a course of action that cannot be undone. "Wraith 2, this is Wraith 7. You wanted me to come dance. Here I am. Let's talk terms." The response comes immediately, Wraith 2's voice carrying amusement that makes her skin crawl. "Finally. I was wondering how long you'd hide behind the regulars. Your little display was impressive, 7, but we both know you're capable of so much more. The question is whether you remember how." "What do you want?" "Same thing I've always wanted. Recognition that JSOC used us, spent us, and threw us away when we became inconvenient. We were the best they had and they killed us for political expedience." He pauses. "I'm building something new here, an organization that doesn't answer to bureaucrats who have never pulled a trigger in anger. Join me. Bring your skills to a cause that actually values them." "You killed 8 of our brothers." I removed obstacles. Wraith 2's voice hardens. They would have tried to stop me, would have chosen loyalty to a system that sees us as disposable assets over loyalty to each other. I gave them the chance to walk away. They chose wrong. Maya feels rage building, hot and clean, the kind that clarifies rather than obscures. And Wraith 3, what did he choose? He chose to gather evidence against me, chose to try and expose what I'm building. So now he gets to watch while I demonstrate exactly what a Wraith can accomplish when freed from rules of engagement and oversight. She can hear the smile in his voice. Here's the deal, 7. You alone, unarmed, come to grid coordinates I'm about to send. We have a conversation. If you convince me you're genuinely interested in joining rather than just trying to rescue your boyfriend, maybe we both walk away happy. If not, well, Wraith 3 dies and you get added to the list of people who chose wrong. I'm not alone in unarmed. Then Wraith 3 dies in the next 60 seconds. Wraith 2's voice goes flat. Your choice. Clock's ticking. The coordinates appear on her tactical tablet. A position 2 clicks northeast, accessible only by foot, the kind of place where an ambush would be easy and escape would be difficult. It is obviously a trap. Obviously, a situation designed to kill her or capture her or force her into making choices that benefit Wraith 2's agenda rather than her own. She looks at Vaughn, at Sullivan, at the SEALs who are fighting because she led them into this valley with full knowledge that they were walking into an ambush. She thinks about Wraith 3, James Hayes, Jordan's brother, held captive for 6 months, and used as bait in a trap that everyone involved knows is a trap, but has to spring anyway because that is what loyalty demands. I'm going, she says it to Vaughn, alone, unarmed, because if I don't, Wraith 3 dies. Vaughn's expression hardens. Negative. We don't negotiate with terrorists, and we definitely don't send team members into obvious traps. I'm not asking permission, sir. Maya stands, begins stripping off her gear. Body armor, rifle, sidearm, combat knife. Everything that could be defined as arms, leaving her in just her uniform and boots, and the absolute certainty that she is about to do something monumentally stupid for reasons that transcend logic and live in the realm of brotherhood and debt, and promises made to people who trusted you with their lives. Sullivan grabs her arm. This is suicide. You know that, right? Wraith 2 isn't going to let you walk away. Probably not. She pulls free, gentle but firm. But Wraith 3 definitely won't walk away if I don't try. And I've spent 3 years hiding, Doc. 3 years pretending to be less than I am. I'm done with that. Whatever happens in the next hour, at least I'll be myself when it does. She starts walking before anyone can stop her, hands raised, moving toward the coordinates with the steady pace of someone who has made peace with whatever comes next. Behind her, she hears Vaughn on the radio, calling for immediate air support, medical evacuation, quick reaction force, every asset that might tilt the odds back towards survivable. But she also hears the desperation in his voice, the understanding that by the time any of those assets arrive, whatever is going to happen will have already happened. The walk takes 30 minutes. 30 minutes of exposure to sniper fire that never comes because Wraith 2 wants this conversation more than he wants her dead, at least for now. She passes through terrain that shows signs of recent occupation, fighting positions dug with military precision, supply caches hidden in ways that speak of training identical to her own. This is not random Taliban insurgency. This is organized, professional, funded by someone with resources and vision, and absolutely no concern for international law or rules of warfare. She finds him waiting in a compound that might have been a school once, before wars turned education into a luxury that this region cannot afford. Wraith 2 sits on a wall, relaxed, confident, wearing local clothes but carrying himself with the posture of someone for whom violence is a native language. He is older than she remembers, harder. But his eyes still hold the intelligence that made him one of JSOC's most valued operators, before he decided that serving America was less appealing than serving himself. 7. He nods as if they are colleagues meeting for coffee rather than enemies meeting on a battlefield. You look good. The broken medic act was inspired. I almost believed it myself until you started moving like the ghost you actually are. Where is Wraith 3? Safe, alive. Probably wishing he was dead, but that's a temporary condition brought on by extended interrogation. He gestures to a doorway behind him. Want to see him? Proof of life before we talk business. Maya nods. Wraith 2 leads her into the compound, down stairs that descend into darkness broken only by battery-powered lights, into a basement that has been converted into a cell. Wraith 3 hangs from chains attached to the ceiling, stripped to the waist, covered in bruises and burns, and the roadmap of torture written across skin that was once unmarked. His eyes open when he hears footsteps, focus on Maya with effort that speaks of concussion and exhaustion and the particular damage that comes from months of systematic brutality. 7. His voice is rough, broken. You shouldn't have come. It's a trap. I know. She looks at Wraith 2. I'm here anyway. Let him go. Whatever you want from me, he's not part of it. Wraith 2 smiles. See, that's where you're wrong. He's absolutely part of it. He's the proof that loyalty to outdated concepts like honor and duty gets you hung in a basement and beaten daily. While I'm free, building something that actually matters, creating an organization where operators like us aren't spent like ammunition and discarded when we become inconvenient. You're a traitor. Maya keeps her voice level. You sold American operations to ISIS. Got God knows how many soldiers killed, and you're calling that freedom. I'm calling it pragmatism. Wraith 2 steps closer, and she sees the fanatic light in his eyes now, the thing that makes true believers so dangerous regardless of what they believe in. JSOC trained us to be the best. Then they threw us into missions where success was impossible and failure was expected. Used us up and spit us out. I'm just doing to them what they did to us first. Number Maya shakes her head. You're doing to us what they never did. They asked us to serve. You're asking us to betray everything we believed in. There's a difference. The smile fades from Wraith 2's face. I gave you a chance to see reason. Gave you the opportunity to join something greater than mindless service to bureaucrats who see you as a tool. But you're too indoctrinated to recognize opportunity when it's offered. He pulls a sidearm, points it at Wraith 3's head. So now you get to watch him die, knowing you could have saved him by making the smart choice. Maya moves, not away from the gun but toward it, closing distance with speed that turns the weapon from advantage into liability. Her hand finds his wrist, twists with leverage born of Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu, and a dozen other martial systems taught to people who need to kill quietly in close quarters. The gun discharges, round going into the ceiling, concrete dust falling like dirty snow. Wraith 2 recovers faster than she expected, trained reflexes overriding surprise, and suddenly they are in close combat, trading strikes with the brutal efficiency of operators who know the same techniques and have trained against them until muscle memory becomes prediction. He drives an elbow toward her temple. She slips it, counters with a palm strike to his solar plexus that should collapse his diaphragm, but he tenses abdominal muscles at the last instant, absorbing most of the impact. His knee comes up toward her groin. She turns her hip, takes it on the thigh, feels the deep bruise forming instantly but ignores the pain because pain is information, and right now the information says keep moving or die. They separate, circle, each looking for advantage. He is bigger, stronger, has reach and weight that should make this fight inevitable in its conclusion. But Maya has motivation that transcends self-preservation, has spent 3 years holding back, and is now unleashing capabilities she has kept caged since Syria. He lunges, tries to close distance and use his weight advantage. She sidesteps, drives her elbow into his kidney as he passes, hears his grunt of pain. He spins, backfist aimed at her head, and she ducks but not quite fast enough. The blow catches her above the left eye, splits skin, and suddenly blood is running down her face, getting into her eye, reducing her vision. She wipes blood away with her sleeve, tastes copper, knows she has maybe 30 seconds before blood loss, and reduced vision tilt the odds decisively in his favor. She needs to end this now. He charges again, and this time she does not evade. She steps inside his guard, accepts a rib-breaking blow to her left side in exchange for getting close enough to execute the technique that will finish this. Her right arm snakes around his neck, locks into a guillotine choke, and she drops her weight, pulling him down and forward, using leverage and body mechanics to compress his carotid arteries. He struggles, landing punches to her ribs that make her vision white out at the edges, but she holds on, tightening the choke with every ounce of strength she possesses. His punches weaken. His movements become uncoordinated. His hands claw at her arm, trying to break the choke, but she has locked it too deep, has committed everything to this technique, and there is no defense once it reaches this point. 15 seconds, his face purples. 20 seconds, his struggles slow. 25 seconds, his hands drop. 30 seconds, his body goes limp. She holds the choke for 10 more seconds, making sure, then releases him. He drops to the floor, not moving, and she checks for a pulse. Nothing. Wraith 2 is dead, killed by the same techniques he taught her years ago in training facilities that officially do not exist. Maya staggers to her feet, ribs screaming, blood still running from the cut above her eye, and moves to Wraith 3. She takes Wraith 2's knife from his belt, cuts the chains, catches James as he falls. "Can you walk? If the alternative is staying here, I can run." His voice is weak, but his eyes are clear. "You killed him." "Yes." "Good." He leans on her, and together they make their way up the stairs, into light that makes them both squint after the basement's darkness. Outside, the sound of rotors announces the arrival of helicopters, medical evacuation and close air support, the assets that Vaughn called in, and are just now arriving in time to be helpful for extraction rather than combat. They make it to the landing zone, where a Blackhawk waits with Doc Sullivan directing the loading of casualties. He sees Maya supporting Wraith 3, blood covering half her face, moving with the careful precision of someone whose ribs are broken, and his expression shifts through surprise to understanding to grim satisfaction. "You got him." "And Wraith 2?" "Dead." Maya helps Wraith 3 onto the helicopter, turns to find Vaughn approaching, his face unreadable. "Mission accomplished, Lieutenant. Wraith 2 is neutralized. Wraith 3 is recovered. Your men are alive. We can go home now." Vaughn studies her for a long moment, sees the blood, the way she is favoring her left side, the cost written across her body. "Who are you going to be when we get back? The broken medic or the ghost?" Maya considers the question, thinks about 3 years of hiding, of diminishing herself, of pretending that competence was weakness and strength was something to be ashamed of. She thinks about Jordan Hayes waiting to see her brother again, about Colonel Torres and the offer to come back to life, about the choice between safety and purpose. "I'm going to be whoever I need to be to finish the job." She meets his eyes. "But I'm done apologizing for being good at what I do." Vaughn extends his hand. "Then welcome to the team, Wraith 7, for real this time." She takes his hand, feels the strength in his grip, sees the respect in his eyes, and knows that something fundamental has changed in this valley. She came here as Maya Reeves, the broken medic. She is leaving as something else entirely. The question now is whether the world is ready for what comes next. The helicopter lifts off, carrying them away from the valley where men died and truths were revealed and old debts were paid in the currency of blood and courage. Below, smoke rises from burning vehicles and the compound where Wraith 2 spent his last moments choking on his own betrayal. The war continues. It always continues. But today, at least, the ghosts won. The medical facility at Bagram Airfield exists in the liminal space between war and civilization, where the brutality of combat meets the precision of modern medicine, in fluorescent-lit rooms that smell like disinfectant, and the particular desperation of trying to reverse what physics and chemistry have written into human flesh. Maya sits in a plastic chair outside the surgical suite, still wearing the uniform she fought in, dried blood crusted on her hands and forearms forming patterns like continents on a map drawn in sacrifice. The cut above her left eye has been butterfly bandaged, the ribs on her left side wrapped tight enough to make breathing an exercise in calculated pain management. The doctors wanted to admit her for observation, wanted X-rays and CT scans, and the full diagnostic workup that protocol demands for someone who just fought hand-to-hand combat with a trained killer. She declined. There are men in surgery who need those resources more than she does, and she has learned to function through pain that would hospitalize normal people. Across from her, Specialist Jordan Hayes has not moved in 3 hours, has barely blinked since the helicopter landed and combat medics rushed Wraith 3 into surgery, where doctors with decades of experience are trying to undo 6 months of systematic torture. Jordan's hands grip her knees hard enough that her knuckles have gone white, fingernails cutting crescents into skin that does not register pain, because all pain is currently focused inward, concentrated on the terrible mathematics of hope measured against likelihood. The surgical suite door opens. A doctor emerges, scrubs marked with blood that belongs to Jordan's brother, face carrying the exhaustion of a man who has just fought his own battle against entropy and cellular death and barely won. He pulls down his mask, and the expression beneath it tells Maya everything she needs to know before he speaks a single word. He's stable. The doctor's voice carries the careful neutrality of someone delivering news that could shift either direction with sufficient provocation. We've treated the acute injuries, set the broken bones, addressed the infections. He pauses, choosing words with the precision of someone who knows that language can wound as surely as bullets. The psychological trauma is beyond my expertise. He's going to need specialists, time, maybe more help than we can provide here. Can I see him? Jordan's voice cracks on the final word, 3 syllables carrying the weight of 6 months of not knowing whether her brother was alive or dead or something worse than either. The doctor nods. 5 minutes. He's heavily sedated, probably won't even know you're there, but yes, you can see him. Jordan stands, moves toward the door like a woman walking through water, each step requiring conscious effort against resistance that exists only in the space between fear and relief. She pauses at the threshold, looks back at Maya with eyes that hold gratitude and grief in equal measure. Thank you for bringing him back, for not giving up when anyone else would have. Maya nods, says nothing, because what words exist that could match the magnitude of this moment? Jordan disappears into the surgical suite, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts and the blood on her hands, and the understanding that some missions end in victory, but victory does not always feel the way you expect it to. Footsteps approach from the corridor, the distinctive rhythm of someone walking with pain but refusing to show weakness. Maya looks up to see Master Chief Dominic Santos, arm in a sling, moving with the careful deliberation of a man whose body has recently been reminded of its mortality. His face still carries bruises from the IED blast, and his right leg drags slightly, suggesting damage that the doctors have stabilized but not yet fully repaired. He sees Maya, and something passes across his expression. Recognition, understanding. The wordless communication of people who have bled together and know that some debts can never be repaid, only acknowledged. Santos settles into the chair beside her, groaning slightly as his body protests the movement. For a long moment, neither speaks. They watch the surgical suite door, the coming and going of medical personnel, the choreography of trauma care that continues regardless of individual drama. Ramadi. Santos says it quietly, the single word carrying weight of years and distance. 2019. My platoon was pinned down in a building, 3 men wounded, medevac couldn't land. A small figure appeared out of nowhere, ran through fire like it wasn't even there, stabilized my Marines and disappeared before I could get a name. He turns to look at her directly. That was you. Maya meets his eyes, sees in them the pieces connecting, the mystery solving itself. Yes. I spent 2 years trying to find out who you were. Asked every MARSOC commander, every JSOC liaison, pulled every favor I had. Everyone said the same thing. No female operators in Ramadi that week. No record of anyone matching your description. He pauses. They lied. You were Wraith even then. I was doing my job. Your job saved 3 Marines who are alive today because of you. One of them has a daughter now. Named her Maya even though he never learned your real name. Said he wanted to honor the ghost who gave him a future. Santos's voice roughens. So thank you. For Ramadi. For yesterday. For every time you did the impossible and asked for nothing in return. Maya feels something shift in her chest. A knot loosening that she did not realize was there. In 3 years of hiding, of pretending to be broken, she has carried the weight of Ramadi and a dozen other missions where she could tell no one what she did or why it mattered. Santos's words do not erase that weight, but they acknowledge it, and acknowledgement is its own form of healing. We take care of our own, she says it simply. That's what operators do. Santos nods, understanding flowing between them without need for additional words. He stands, grimacing as his leg protests, and extends his good hand. Welcome to the Brotherhood 7. You've always been part of it. We just didn't know to look for you. She takes his hand, feels the calluses of a man who has spent decades in special operations, and knows that whatever comes next, she will not face it alone. Santos walks away, favoring his injured leg, but his back is straight and his bearing carries the dignity of a warrior who has seen the worst and survived to tell about it. The surgical suite door opens again and Jordan emerges, tears streaming down her face, but her expression holds something that might be peace, or at least the first fragile seeds of it. He woke up, just for a minute, but he saw me, knew me, said my name. Her voice breaks. Thank you for giving me my brother back. Maya stands, accepts the embrace that Jordan offers, feels the younger woman's tears soaking into the shoulder of a uniform that has seen too much blood and fire, and the messy reality of what it costs to keep promises made to people who trust you with their lives. She does not say you're welcome because gratitude feels inappropriate for actions that should be baseline expectations of what operators do for each other. He's going to be okay. Maya says it with the certainty of someone who has seen enough broken people put themselves back together to recognize the difference between damage and destruction. It'll take time, probably years, but he's strong. He survived 6 months of hell. He can survive recovery. Will I see you again? Jordan pulls back, wipes her eyes. Or are you disappearing now that the mission's done? Maya considers the question, thinks about the phone in her pocket and the calls she needs to make and the new life that is actually the old life reborn into something that might be sustainable. I'll be around. Different capacity, different role, but around. Another figure appears in the corridor. Corporal Jake Hendricks, shoulder heavily bandaged, walking with the stiff posture of someone fighting pain medications attempt to make him sleep. He sees Maya and Jordan, hesitates, then forces himself forward with visible effort. He stops a respectful distance away, and when he speaks his voice carries none of the earlier bravado, none of the casual cruelty he wore like armor. "Sergeant Cooper, can I have a minute?" Jordan looks between them, recognizes the moment for what it is, and quietly excuses herself. Maya and Hendricks stand alone in the corridor, separated by 3 feet and a gulf of actions that cannot be undone but might be acknowledged. "I was wrong about you." Hendricks forces the words out, each one clearly costing him. "Dead wrong, the rifle sabotage, the harassment, all of it. I thought you were weak, thought you'd break, thought teaching you a lesson about not belonging would make the team stronger." He swallows hard. "Instead, you saved my life. You took a sniper round meant for me, called in fire support that kept us all alive, and did it while I was still bleeding from a wound I got, because I was arrogant enough to expose myself unnecessarily." Maya studies him, sees genuine remorse beneath the physical pain, sees a man confronting the gap between who he thought he was and who his actions revealed him to be. "You were scared. Scared that I'd get you killed. Scared that I couldn't do the job. Fear makes people cruel sometimes. That doesn't excuse it." Maya agrees. It doesn't, but understanding it is the first step toward being better. Hendricks nods, meets her eyes. "I'll be better, I promise you that. And if you ever need anything, anything at all, you call me. I owe you my life. That's not a debt I take lightly." He offers his hand, the gesture awkward with his injured shoulder. Maya takes it, feels the tremor that pain or emotion or both puts into his grip, and knows that this moment matters to him in ways that will shape whatever comes after. "Heal up, Corporal." She releases his hand. "The team needs you at full strength." Hendricks nods, relief visible in his expression, and walks away with slightly steadier steps than when he arrived. Maya watches him go, adding another closed loop to the list of resolutions this mission has brought. Footsteps approach from the opposite direction, boot heels clicking against tile with the rhythm of military precision. Colonel Sarah Torres appears around the corner, uniform crisp despite the late hour, eyes sharp with the kind of focus that suggests she has been awake for 36 hours and plans to remain awake for 36 more, because sleep is a luxury that command does not afford. "Sergeant Reeves." Torres settles into the chair Hendricks vacated, studies Maya with an expression that reveals nothing. "Interesting patrol. The after-action reports are reading like fiction. One combat medic, allegedly suffering from PTSD and acute anxiety, single-handedly stabilizes a catastrophic ambush, executes tactical movements that would challenge DEVGRU operators, makes a 600-meter uphill sniper shot, and then walks unarmed into enemy territory to rescue a hostage and eliminate a high-value target." She pauses. "Care to explain how someone with your official medical profile accomplished all that?" "Training." Maya keeps her voice flat. "Good equipment, better motivation." Torres almost smiles. "The kind of training that gets you designated Wraith 7. The kind that officially ended 3 years ago when your entire unit was killed in a training accident that left no bodies and somehow resulted in Bronze Stars being awarded to people who were supposedly dead." Maya meets her eyes, recognizes the test for what it is. "You already know the answers, ma'am. Why ask the questions?" "Because I need to hear you say it." Torres leans forward, voice dropping to a register that will not carry beyond the immediate space they occupy. "I need to know if you're ready to stop hiding. If you're ready to be Wraith 7 again, officially this time, operating under legal authority instead of in the shadows where deniability matters more than effectiveness." The offer hangs in the air between them like smoke, visible but intangible, carrying implications that extend far beyond the immediate conversation. Maya processes the variables, runs calculations that factor in 3 years of hiding, the relief of finally being herself again, the cost of returning to a life where every mission might be the last, and retirement is more likely to come from a bullet than a pension. What happened to staying dead? She asks the question knowing the answer but needing to hear Tors say it aloud. Wraith 2 happened. Tors pulls a tablet from her bag, displays satellite imagery of the compound where Maya killed him, where his body now lies cooling in a basement that has become his tomb. He wasn't working alone. Intelligence assessment suggests he built a network, recruited former operators who share his grievances, created an organization that exists specifically to undermine American operations in this region. She swipes to the next image, showing faces Maya recognizes, operators she trained with, fought beside, trusted with her life before the world burned and everyone scattered. We need Wraith program back, not the old version that got betrayed and burned. A new version, smaller, more focused. Operators who have already been tested by fire and proven they can't be bought or broken. How many? Maya studies the faces on the screen, counts familiar features beneath beards and scars, and the weight of years spent pretending to be someone else. 16 survived the original Wraith program. Tors swipes through images, each one a ghost made flesh. We've located 12. The other 4 are either deep cover or actually dead this time. Of the 12, 8 are willing to come back if the right person asks them. She meets Maya's eyes. That person is you, 7. You're the one who called the strike. The one who made the hard call. They respect that. They'll follow you. And the mission. Tors expands the display, showing operational parameters that make Maya's pulse quicken despite 3 years away from this kind of work. Same as it always was. Find the threats that conventional forces can't reach. Eliminate them before they eliminate us. Operate in the spaces where rules of engagement become suggestions and success matters more than how you achieved it. She pauses. The difference this time is oversight. Real oversight. Chain of command that goes directly to JSOC commander, with congressional notification for operations that cross certain thresholds. No more rogue commanders selling out their own people. No more missions based on intelligence that comes from sources we can't verify. She swipes again, showing organizational charts, budgets, legal frameworks. You'll operate under Title 50 authority, which means CIA oversight in addition to JSOC. Every operation gets legal review before execution. Every operator maintains their real identity in classified databases, with provisions for family notification in case of KIA. You die on a mission. You die with your name on the memorial wall, not in an unmarked grave that officially doesn't exist. What about the missions themselves? Maya studies the operational parameters, sees language that suggests activities that would make congressional oversight very uncomfortable if details ever became public. We do the work that prevents wars. Tor's voice takes on an edge. The kind of work where eliminating 3 threats saves 3,000 lives, where operating in the shadows means American soldiers can operate in the light without walking into ambushes planned by people we should have removed years ago. She meets Maya's eyes. It's not clean work. It's not easy work, but it's necessary work. And the only question that matters is whether you're willing to do it under a system that values you as a person, rather than treating you as a disposable asset. Maya thinks about Lieutenant Carter Vaughn offering his hand in respect, earned through competence demonstrated under fire. Thinks about Doc Sullivan watching her work and seeing past the mask to the operator underneath. Thinks about Santos and his gratitude for Ramadi, about Hendricks learning humility through pain, about 8 SEALs who came into this valley believing she was broken and left knowing she was anything but. I need guarantees. Her voice is steady, certain. No more fake funerals. No more classified files that erase us from existence. We operate in the shadows, but we don't become shadows. Our families know we're alive. Our service counts toward retirement. And if we die with our names on the memorial wall instead of in unmarked graves that officially don't exist. Tors nods slowly. Agreed. The old Wraith program treated operators as disposable assets. The new one treats you as what you actually are. America's best chance at winning wars that can't be fought conventionally. She extends her hand. So what do you say, 7? Ready to stop pretending and start hunting? Maya looks at the offered hand, sees in it the promise of returning to a life she thought was finished, of using skills that have been wasting away behind a performance of weakness. But she also sees the cost, the missions that will come, the choices that will have to be made in darkness where right and wrong become fluid concepts measured against outcomes rather than intentions. She takes the hand, feels Tor's grip firm and certain. When do we start? Now Tor stands, pulls out a secure phone, hands it to Maya. First call is to Wraith 5. She's currently working as a flight instructor at Pensacola, pretending her body count is 0 instead of somewhere in the triple digits. Second call is Wraith 9, running a security consulting firm in Virginia Beach, getting fat on corporate money and dying of boredom. Third through 8th, I'll send you the contact protocols. She pauses at the door. Take 48 hours. Get cleaned up. Visit your people. Say whatever goodbyes need saying. Then we activate and you disappear into the work. What about Vaughn's team? They know what I am now. That's a security risk. Tors shakes her head. Vaughn and his SEALs are being read into the program. Limited access, need-to-know basis, but enough that they understand why you were there and what you did. They've earned that much. And besides, we might need them for future operations. Good to have conventional forces who already know how Wraith operates and won't ask inconvenient questions. She leaves Maya alone with the phone and the weight of decisions that will reshape everything that comes after. Through the surgical suite window, Maya can see Jordan sitting beside her brother's bed, holding his hand, speaking words that don't carry through the glass, but don't need to because their meaning is written in the body language of reunion and relief, and the slow beginning of healing. The door to the surgical suite opens again. Jordan emerges, tears streaming down her face, but her expression holds something that might be peace, or at least the first fragile seeds of it. Maya stands, accepts another embrace, feels the younger woman's gratitude and grief flowing together. She leaves Jordan to her vigil, walks through corridors that smell like antiseptic and suffering managed through chemistry and skill, emerges into the Afghan night where stars shine with the clarity that only exists in places without light pollution, where the cosmos presents itself as it actually is rather than the diminished version visible from cities that have forgotten darkness. Doc Sullivan waits outside, leaning against a wall, smoking a cigarette with the guilty pleasure of a man who knows it is killing him, but values the stress relief more than the abstract future where consequences accumulate. He sees Maya, offers the pack. She waves it off, settles against the wall beside him, both of them looking at stars that have watched humans kill each other in this region since before America existed as a concept. Vaughn told us. Sullivan's voice is neutral, the tone of someone processing information that contradicts everything he thought he knew about Wraith, about what you really are, about why you were actually here. He takes a drag, exhales smoke that rises toward stars that don't care about human drama. I've been in special operations for 20 years, seen some shit, done some shit, but what you did today, that was something else entirely. Just doing my job. Sullivan laughs, bitter and genuine. Your job is keeping people alive. You did that. But you also executed tactical movements that would get written up as exemplary in DEVGRU after-action reviews. Made shots that trained snipers would struggle with. Walked into an obvious trap and came out carrying a hostage and having eliminated a high-value target. He looks at her directly. That's not a medic's job, 7. That's a door-kicking, throat-cutting, mission-accomplishing operator's job. And you did it while half my team still thought you were broken. Maya shrugs, uncomfortable with praise, more accustomed to operating in shadows where excellence is expected and acknowledgement is a security risk. The broken act was necessary, kept people from asking questions that I couldn't answer without compromising operations that officially don't exist. Well, the act's over now. Sullivan crushes the cigarette under his boot. Vaughn's recommending you for a silver star. I'm backing him. So is Santos, Hendricks, everyone who was in that valley. He pauses. For what it's worth, I'm sorry we made you prove yourself the hard way. You deserved better than the hazing, the sabotage, the assumption that you were dead weight. You didn't know. Maya keeps her voice even. And honestly, I needed the test. Needed to know if I could still function as Wraith 7 after 3 years of playing civilian. Needed to know if the skills were still there or if I'd spent so long pretending to be weak that I'd actually become weak. And I'm not weak. The certainty in her voice surprises even her. I'm exactly what I was trained to be. The only difference now is I don't have to hide it anymore. Sullivan nods, pushes off from the wall. Get some rest, 7. You've earned it. And when you're ready, whenever JSOC activates you for whatever nightmare mission comes next, remember you've got friends in the SEAL teams who have your back. We take care of our own, and you're one of ours now whether you want to be or not. He walks away, leaving Maya alone with the stars and the phone that connects her to a future that looks remarkably like the past, except this time she gets to choose it instead of having it chosen for her. She pulls out the phone, scrolls through the contact list that Tor's loaded, names and numbers that represent operators scattered across the country, living false lives, waiting for the call that tells them they can stop pretending. She selects the first number, Wraith 5. Call sign, Angel. Real name classified, but the voice that answers after 3 rings is familiar, female, carrying the particular mix of caution and readiness that comes from years of living with the understanding that any call could be the last one you answer before someone kicks down your door. Yeah, the voice is carefully neutral, giving away nothing. This is 7. Long pause on the other end, breathing changing quality, shifting from caution to something that might be recognition or might be disbelief. Angel, I'm making the calls. The band's getting back together. You in? The pause stretches, seconds becoming small eternities while Wraith 5 processes information that 3 years of conditioning said would never come, that the life they walked away from was finished permanently. When she speaks again, her voice carries relief so profound it borders on pain. I thought I was done. Thought I'd spend the rest of my life teaching kids how to fly helicopters and pretending I didn't dream about missions every goddamn night. Her breath catches. Where and when? Tours will send you details. 48 hours to settle your affairs. Then we activate. 7. Wraith 5's voice softens. Is it real this time? Real oversight, real support, real acknowledgement that we exist? Or are we walking back into another situation where someone sells us out and we end up buried in unmarked graves? It's real. Maya says it with conviction built on Tor's promises and her own refusal to accept anything less. We operate in shadows, but we're not shadows. We die with our names on the wall. We retire with benefits. We exist, officially and legally, even if the missions don't. Then I'm in. Wraith 5 sounds younger suddenly, energized. God, I'm so fucking in. Let me know what you need. I'll be there. The call ends. Maya makes the next one and the next, working through the list with the methodical precision of someone checking off boxes on a mission plan that will determine the shape of everything that follows. Wraith 9 answers on the first ring, recognition immediate, acceptance faster. Wraith 11 takes more convincing, has built a life that involves a wife and kids, and the kind of normalcy that operators dream about in the spaces between missions, but eventually agrees, because Some callings cannot be ignored regardless of what comfort you have constructed around yourself. By the time the sun rises over Bagram, painting the mountains in shades of gold and blood, Maya has assembled her team. 8 operators, the best America ever produced, coming back from retirement or deep cover or comfortable lives to return to work that will never make headlines, will never be acknowledged, will exist only in the classified files that future historians might find if they know where to look and have clearances that most presidents don't possess. Lieutenant Carter Vaughn finds her at sunrise, carrying 2 cups of coffee that taste like they were brewed in a mechanic's shop, but contain enough caffeine to make the previous 48 hours without sleep feel almost manageable. He offers one, settles onto the bench beside her, both of them watching the sunrise with the appreciation of people who have seen enough sunrises after combat to know they are never guaranteed. Silver Star got approved. His voice carries satisfaction. You'll receive it in a ceremony at Fort Liberty in 6 weeks. Pentagon wants to make it a thing. First female SEAL medic to receive a Valor Award for actions in Afghanistan. He pauses. Except you're not actually a SEAL medic, are you? The paperwork says I am. Vaughn sips his coffee, processing. Tors read me in. Not everything. Just enough to understand why you were really on that patrol and what you actually did before you became Maya Reeves, the broken combat medic. He looks at her directly. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not the bullshit sorry you got your feelings hurt kind, but the I was fundamentally wrong about who you are and I treated you accordingly kind. You were following your assessment based on available information. Maya keeps her voice neutral. The information was deliberately false. That's on me and whoever constructed the cover identity, not on you for believing it. Still, Vaughn sets down his coffee. I ripped your uniform. Let my team sabotage your equipment. Allowed a culture where you were harassed and diminished and treated like dead weight. That's on me regardless of what I believed about your capabilities. And I'm sorry. The apology hangs between them, genuine and uncomfortable, the kind of admission that costs something for a man like Vaughn to make. Maya accepts it with a nod, not because words matter, but because the gesture represents a shift in understanding that will reshape how they interact in whatever operations bring them together in the future. For what it's worth, you passed your own test too. She meets his eyes. You could have left me behind when Wraith 2 demanded I come alone. Could have refused to collapse your position when I took tactical control. Could have treated my expertise as a threat to your authority instead of an asset to be leveraged. But you didn't. You adapted. That's leadership. Vaughn smiles, genuine this time. So what happens now? You disappear into whatever black program Tors is running. Or do I get to keep the best combat medic I've ever worked with? Both. Maya finishes her coffee, stands. I'll be around when you need me. Different capacity, different authority, but available for operations where SEAL capabilities need to be augmented by assets that don't officially exist. Looking forward to it. Vaughn extends his hand again, and this time the gesture carries none of the testing quality from their first handshake in the valley. This time it is simply respect between professionals who have bled together and know that bond transcends rank or program affiliation. Stay safe out there, 7. And if you ever need a team you can trust, you know where to find us. She takes his hand, feels the strength in it, understands that she has gained more than just mission success in that valley. She has gained allies, brothers, the kind of relationships that matter when missions go wrong and you need people who will walk into hell to pull you out. The SEALs thought they were getting a burden. Instead, they got Wraith 7. The universe has a sense of humor about these things. The C-17 that will carry her back to the United States sits on the tarmac, engine spooling up, rear ramp lowered to accept cargo and personnel for the long flight home. Maya walks toward it carrying a duffel that contains everything she owns that matters, which is not much because Operators learn early that attachment to things becomes liability when you might have to abandon everything and run at a moment's notice. Halfway to the aircraft, she stops, turns, takes one last look at the mountains that hold the bodies of men she could not save, the valleys where she proved to herself that 3 years of hiding had not erased what she was trained to be, the compound where Wraith 2 died, and a chapter of her life closed with the finality of a bullet to the brainstem. Jordan Hayes appears at her side, materializing from the morning traffic of personnel moving between buildings and aircraft. My brother's being transferred stateside tomorrow. Walter Reed, full rehabilitation program. They think he'll make a complete physical recovery. Her voice drops. The psychological stuff, that's going to take longer, but he's alive. He's safe. And that's because of you. That's because we both refused to give up on him. Maya corrects gently. You spent 2 years investigating, gathering evidence, making sure the truth didn't stay buried. I just finished what you started. Jordan pulls an envelope from her jacket, offers it. He wanted you to have this. Wrote it this morning when he was lucid enough to hold a pen. Said it was important that you read it before you disappear into whatever comes next. Maya takes the envelope, feels the weight of paper and ink, and whatever words Wraith 3 thought were important enough to commit to physical form in an age where everything exists digitally, and nothing is truly private. She does not open it immediately, just slips it into her pocket for later, for a moment when she is alone, and can process whatever message he sent without the pressure of an audience. Take care of yourself, Jordan. Maya says it knowing they will likely not see each other again, that the nature of Wraith operations means cutting ties with anyone who could become leverage or liability. And take care of your brother. He survived hell. Make sure the recovery doesn't break what the torture couldn't. Jordan nods, unable to speak through the emotion closing her throat. She pulls Maya into a final embrace, fierce and brief, then releases her and walks away before the tears can fall in public view. Maya watches her go, another connection severed in the name of operational security, another person who knows too much and will have to be monitored to ensure that knowledge stays contained. The flight back is 22 hours of discomfort and noise, cargo webbing cutting into shoulders, engines roaring at frequencies designed to induce headaches, the particular misery of military transport that values efficiency over comfort. Maya spends most of it reading Wraith 3's letter, words written in shaky handwriting that speaks of hands not yet recovered from months of torture, but determined to communicate regardless. 7. I don't know how to thank you for what you did, walking into that compound knowing it was a trap, killing Wraith 2 with your bare hands when he had every advantage, carrying me out when you could have left me and probably survived easier without the burden. Jordan tells me that's just who you are, that operators like us don't leave brothers behind regardless of the cost. Maybe she's right, but I still want you to know it mattered. You mattered. The choice you made mattered. Wraith 2 spent 6 months trying to break me, trying to get me to renounce everything we believed in, everything we fought for, everything that made Wraith program worth the cost. He failed. Not because I'm particularly strong or brave, but because I knew someone would come. Knew you would come. And that certainty, that faith in the bonds we built during training and operations and all those nights in hellholes around the world, that's what kept me breathing when dying would have been easier. TORS is rebuilding Wraith, making it official, legitimate, the kind of program that doesn't require fake funerals and classified files that erase us from existence. I'm not ready to go back to it yet. Maybe never. The damage runs deep and I don't know if I can be that person again. But I'm glad you're leading it. If anyone can make the new Wraith program what the old one should have been, it's you. Stay safe out there, 7. Kill the bastards who need killing. Save the people who need saving. And remember that somewhere in a rehabilitation facility, a broken operator is putting himself back together and rooting for you every step of the way. Your brother. Wraith 3. Maya folds the letter, returns it to the envelope, slips it back into her pocket next to the phone that contains her future. The letter represents her past, the program that broke and scattered, the operators who died, and the ones who survived by becoming other people. The phone represents what comes next, the missions that will define the rest of her operational life, the choices that will have to be made in darkness where right and wrong become suggestions rather than absolutes. The aircraft begins its descent into Fort Liberty, North Carolina. Home, at least for the moment, at least until the next mission spins up, and she deploys to some new hellhole where Americans are dying and conventional forces cannot reach the threats that need eliminating. She looks out the window at the landscape below, green and peaceful, so different from the mountains of Afghanistan that it seems impossible they exist on the same planet. But they do exist on the same planet, and the distance between them is measured not in miles but in perspective, in the understanding that peace is possible only because people like Maya Reeves are willing to do violence in its defense, to operate in shadows so that others can live in light, to carry burdens that would break normal people, because normal people should not have to know what it costs to keep them safe. The wheels touch down. The aircraft taxis to a stop. The ramp lowers, revealing North Carolina's summer heat and humidity that hits like a physical force after the dry mountain air of Afghanistan. Maya shoulders her duffel, walks down the ramp into sunlight that seems too bright, too innocent, too far removed from the reality she just left behind. Colonel Torres waits at the bottom of the ramp, flanked by two operators Maya recognizes from the photos. Wraith 5 and Wraith 9 arrived early, eager to begin the work, ready to return to the only life that ever made sense to them. They salute as Maya approaches, not the casual gesture of routine military courtesy, but the sharp acknowledgement of an operator saluting her commander. Welcome home, 7. Tor's voice carries satisfaction. The team's assembling, equipment's being staged. First mission brief is scheduled for 72 hours from now. She pauses. You ready for this? Maya looks at Wraith 5 and Wraith 9, sees in their faces the same hunger she feels, the same need to be useful again, to apply skills that have been wasting away in civilian life, to serve in the way they were designed to serve. She thinks about Lieutenant Vaughn offering respect earned through competence, about Doc Sullivan smoking cigarettes and acknowledging excellence, about Santos and Ramadi and Marines who lived because someone cared enough to run through fire, about Jordan Hayes getting her brother back, about Wraith 3 surviving hell because he believed someone would come. She thinks about 3 years of hiding, of pretending, of being less than what she is. And she thinks about the freedom of finally being herself again, officially and legally, operating with authority instead of in the gray spaces where deniability matters more than effectiveness. I'm ready. She says it with the certainty of someone who has found her way back to a calling that was never truly abandoned, only interrupted. Let's get to work. They walk together across the tarmac, 3 ghosts made flesh, operators returning to the shadows not because they have to, but because they choose to, because some people are built for this work and no amount of civilian comfort can erase that fundamental truth. Behind them, the sun climbs higher, burning away morning haze, revealing the world in sharp detail. Somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan, smoke still rises from a compound where a traitor died and a brother was saved. Somewhere in offices across the country, men who threaten American interests are going about their daily routines, unaware that Wraith program has been reborn and is coming for them with the inevitability of physics and the precision of surgeons removing cancer. And somewhere in Fort Liberty, North Carolina, in a building that does not appear on any official maps, Maya Reeves sets down her duffel and picks up the mantle of Wraith 7 for the second time, ready to lead her team into darkness so that others can live in light, ready to pay whatever cost the mission demands, ready to be the ghost that haunts America's enemies and the shield that protects her brothers. The war continues. It always continues. But today, at least, the ghosts are winning. I've spent years researching stories like Maya's operators who served in silence, earned no headlines, but changed the outcome of battles most Americans will never hear about. The part that gets me every time, Lieutenant Vaughn's handshake at the end. That moment when a man who spent 72 hours breaking someone down has to face what real strength looks like. It's not about the size of the soldier. It's about the size of the heart. What moment hit you hardest? Drop a comment below. And if you want more untold stories of American warriors, hit that subscribe button. These heroes deserve to be remembered.